when Stephanie sent the list of models that are being made available for the refresh program, I was really delighted because the selections were really excellent. They made some excellent choices. I'm really pleased to see the models they chose. And I'm just going to spend some time going through those models to give you just some of the basic product information. And then that's really all I have planned for this morning. And then after that, we'll just go right into some Q&A. So the first model that was selected is the MacBook Air. And I love this model for higher education. In my view, this is the perfect model for standard users. Everybody should just automatically gravitate to the MacBook Air, and I'll talk about it more in a couple minutes. But to me, this is just the ultimate laptop for higher education, and I'll kind of go into some of the reasons for that in a little bit. However, some people prefer to have a desktop computer, and the iMac is the perfect choice for a standard desktop computer. So again, the MacBook Air and the iMac, those are the perfect standard laptop and desktop computers if you want a Mac. Now, Information Services has also identified some higher end laptops in case you have more advanced needs. So they've also identified two models of the MacBook Pro, and we'll go into some of the details there. These machines are essentially the same computer, but they've been spec'd a little differently. So I'll go into some of those details to help you decide, which one would be best for you. But the main point here is that if you have needs beyond a standard laptop, the MacBook Pro is an option available. Okay, so let's dig a little bit deeper. I'm going to talk more about the MacBook Air. And the MacBook Air is the first Apple computer to have the M2 processor in it. So this is the next generation of the M1 chip. So if you recall, Apple is moving away from Intel processors. We are including our own chips that were based on the chips that we designed and fabricated for the iPhone and the iPad. And they have just incredible power efficiency. Yet they're also very performant. So you can do, you can have incredible performance, but not drain your battery. So just like your iPhone and your iPad, you get really long battery life while you're doing all the things that you need to do. So the point of the M2 is that it's the next generation. So it's about 18% faster than the M1. It's about 35% faster for graphics than the M1. So it's the next generation beyond the M1 chip. Maximizes performance, minimizes power consumption. That's the messaging with our new M1 and M2 chips. The M2, another one of the benefits of the M2 is the memory bandwidth. So that's the ability to get data to your RAM has improved. So with the M1, it was 68 gigabytes per second. With the M2, it goes up to 100 gigabytes per second. So much faster memory bandwidth. That means that your computing experience will be much better. Plus, the M2 has a media engine that supports encoding and decoding Apple's ProRes codec. So if you're doing high-end video editing, this is built right into the M2, whereas it wasn't built into the M1. In the past, you would have to get like a Mac Pro or an iMac Pro computer to do really high-end video editing. Yet now with the M2, you're able to do some really advanced video editing simply with an entry-level laptop. So that blows my mind. Now, the MacBook Air with the M2 processor is about 20% smaller by volume than the prior generation, than the MacBook Air with the M1. So it takes up less overall space. It's very thin. It's only 11.3 millimeters thin. And it only weighs about 2.7 pounds. So if mobility is your primary goal, the MacBook Air definitely is something to consider. Only 2.7 pounds. It does have we've added a MagSafe charging port, so that frees up both of the Thunderbolt ports for your accessories, such as USB-C accessories. And there's also a new high impedance headphone jack. So you can attach really high quality headphones to use with a wired connection if you choose to do that. Also, we keep refining our Magic Keyboard. So you have full height keys, you have that function key row, and there's a Touch ID sensor. So you can log into your Mac just by using biometric authentication, your fingerprint. And we also have a Force Touch trackpad. So we have a very large space for the trackpad. There's no mechanical parts there. It's all magnetic, so there's nothing to break. And depending on the software, it can actually sense how hard and where on the trackpad you're pressing to give different responses just in software alone. The screen is 13.6 inch corner to corner, and the borders are much thinner than any other MacBook Air we've ever had. It's also 25% brighter than the prior MacBook Air, so it can go all the way up to 500 nits of brightness. I highly doubt that you can find a PC laptop that you're offering with that level of brightness. It also supports 1 billion colors, so if you're doing anything with photography or movies, the colors will look really vibrant. The front-facing camera has been upgraded, so instead of just high definition, it's now full high definition, that is 1080p. So you're, like we are doing today, all these video conferences that we're having, you'll be able to express yourself with higher resolution, and you'll look much better. The resolution will be twice as good. As far as microphones, there's a studio quality 3 microphone array. So if you're just having conversations like this, or if you're actually recording audio as part of a lecture or a video that you're creating, it will sound really good. There's advanced beamforming algorithms working to give you the clearest audio possible. As far as the speakers, there's a 4-speaker sound system. So it produces amazing stereo separation and vocal clarity. We also support something called spatial audio. This is technology that supports things like Dolby Atmos. So instead of just having 2 channels for left and right stereo, I believe it supports up to 128 channels. So it's really a more immersive 3D audio experience. As far as performance, here's some examples. I already mentioned that the MacBook Air with the M2 is about 35% faster. Here's an example than the MacBook Air with the M1. In this example here, this is using some filters in Photoshop. You can see that the M2 MacBook Air is about 20% faster than the prior generation, and it's about 5 times faster than the prior MacBook Air with Intel inside. So this is really a very fast laptop for doing things like filters in Photoshop. For video editing, again, you can see that it's significantly faster. It's 38% faster than the prior generation MacBook Air and 15 times faster than the the Intel-based MacBook Air. So really screaming performance on the MacBook Air M2 if you're doing anything with image editing or video editing. And of course, most of us probably spend most of our time doing things like web and email and Microsoft Office, and we don't need that power, but it's there if you happen to need it. Also, one of the really great things about the MacBook Air is that it doesn't have a fan, so it's completely silent. The performance per watt is so great, yet it just uses so little power that you don't need to have a fan in it, and it's completely silent, so you never have to listen to all the fans spinning and turning on. So that's really nice to not have to be bothered by that distraction. Battery life up to 18 hours of video playback is in this one example, but you should be able to absolutely get a full day of the battery. And if you're just watching video, it should go a day and a half, or up to 18 hours rather. I didn't mean a day and a half, but a work day and then some. For Wi-Fi, we support the latest standards, so up to 1.2 gigabytes per second throughput with Wi-Fi. And of course, we support Bluetooth 5. So when you add your Bluetooth devices, you could add them very easily. So just in summary, the MacBook Air, it's the first Apple laptop with the M2 chip. There's an error on this slide. I apologize. It should be 512 gigabytes of storage. So 16 gigabytes of unified memory. And when I say unified memory, what I mean is that not only can the CPU access that memory, but the GPU and the machine learning cores can access that memory as well. So all the different processing units on the computer can access that full 16 gigabytes of memory, which is really one of the ways why this computer is so performant. So again, the storage, 512 gigabytes. I need to correct that in the slide, my apologies. Full high definition front-facing camera, very robust sound system built in, studio quality, 3 microphone array, up to 18 hours of battery life. One other thing to be aware of from an environmental perspective, we're proud that 100% of the aluminum in the enclosure comes from recycling. So we're really happy about that. One more note about the MacBook Air, and actually this applies to the iMac, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But Apple's entry-level chips, so the M1 chip and the M2 chip, those are considered our entry-level chips for standard computers. They support one external display. So if you are someone that needs more than one external display, one option is to use a dock that uses DisplayLink technology. And so you'll have to get in touch with Stephanie to find out what options Information Services makes available. But if you have a MacBook Air or an iMac and you need more than one external display, then DisplayLink is one option. Another option is just to get a bigger external monitor so you could see you have more real estate on it. Or if you want a laptop, you can consider going to the MacBook Pro, which supports more than one external display. Another option that we like to point out is if you have an iPad, you could use a feature called Sidecar, which uses your iPad as an external display. And that doesn't count against that limit of one external display. That's in addition to that. All right, so moving along, I want to talk about the iMac. And this is just a great computer for a standard desktop user. If you're doing Word and Microsoft Office, web, email, those types of things, the iMac is just more than enough power, and it's a great user experience. So this is what it looks like. It comes in different colors. So I imagine Stephanie has chosen like the silver color, which is the standard color. So I apologize if my slides are in other colors. My slides are, I can't choose what color the product is in these slides, but I imagine the university has already selected a specific color. But so here's a front face of the iMac. It's a single sheet of glass. It covers the entire surface. You can see that there's still a chin at the bottom that identifies it as an iMac. It's incredibly thin. It's only 11.5 millimeters thin. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's how thin the original iPhone was. So that's how thin the new iMac is. We've reduced the overall volume by over 50%. So it's a lot more compact than iMacs in the past. The screen is actually it's 23.5 inches corner to corner, and that makes 11.3 million pixels. But it is actually it's a 4.5K Retina display, so it's not just 4K, it's 4.5K for even more pixels. And it supports over 1 billion colors. It supports the P3 color gamut. And just like the MacBook Air, it supports 500 nits of brightness. So images are really brilliant and vivid. It also supports True Tone. So basically, there's an ambient light sensor that will automatically adjust the color temperature as your environment changes, so it doesn't hurt your eyes depending on what type of lighting you have at the time you're using your computer. It also has a low reflectivity coating on it. So if you have a window in your office, for example, the glare will be minimized. Let's talk a little bit about the camera, microphones, and the speakers that come with the iMac. So again, we've switched from a high-def front-facing camera to a full high-def 1080p front-facing camera, so it doubles the resolution, much higher quality video. The microphones, again, they're studio quality 3-microphone array. The reason we have 3 microphones is to help reduce feedback from the rest of the computer, so that conversations are cleaner, crisper. They don't have artifacts in the background from the machinery. And the microphones are beamforming, so it gets a lot of that background noise in your environment out of the audio recording, and it focuses on your voice. So whether you're doing like a call like this, or whether you're recording an audio track, your audio is as clean as possible. For speakers, there's 2 pairs of force canceling woofers that really produce a great bass response. We balance each set of these woofers with a high performance tweeter. So the audio sounds really amazing. So that's a total of 6 speakers. So you really have strong bass, and you have really clear mids and highs. So it's a great audio system. If you don't have your own speakers, you can just use the speakers in the iMac. They're that good. And like the MacBook Air, it supports spatial audio. So when you play videos or audio that uses Dolby Atmos, you have that immersive 3D audio experience. For performance, it has the M1. So this is Apple's entry-level chip. And it's great for things that you do, on a daily basis: Microsoft Office, web things, email, basic image processing and video editing. If you do advanced video editing, you may want something that's a little more robust. But for just periodic video editing, this should be totally fine. On all of the M1 and M2 Macs, they wake almost instantly. They're very responsive, and the apps launch incredibly fast when you are launching native apps. It's 85% faster than the Intel-based iMac. The graphics are twice as fast than the Intel iMac. I'm sorry, my slides are a little off here. For Final Cut, if you're doing video editing on the iMac, you can edit up to 5 streams of 4K video or 1 stream of 8K video without dropping any frames. So the performance is really great. If you were doing any apps that use machine learning, the performance is 3 times faster than the Intel-based iMacs. Let's look at connectivity. On the back, there's 4 USB ports. 2 of them support Thunderbolt and USB 4, and then there's 2 10 gigabit per second USB 3 ports. And of course, you can use a USB-C to A adapter if you have old style peripherals that you need to connect. Now, because the iMac is so thin, the only place we could put the headphone jack is on the side. So that's where the headphone jack is there. There's an external power adapter. The power adapter is actually external, and it's connected via magnets. So you can have your power adapter just lay on the floor under your desk. It doesn't get in your way. If you connect by Ethernet, the Ethernet port will be on the adapter itself, not on the Mac. And it comes with Apple's Magic Keyboard, so you can see what it looks like here. It has some special hotkeys on it. One is to engage Spotlight, which does a metadata search of all your hard drive contents. There's a dictation button if you want to enable dictation quickly. You can quickly enable Do Not Disturb. or there's a key in the top right corner to quickly lock your system. So for example, if you're running out of the office and you just want to lock your system without logging out, you can do that. And the iMac, Stephanie will have to clarify. I don't know if you have a choice of mouse or trackpad, or maybe it's just the mouse that comes with it. Stephanie, do you?
It's the standard Magic Keyboard without the number pad and the Magic Mouse.
Magic Mouse, okay. And for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, we support the latest standards. So you can connect to your campus Wi-Fi if you need to, and Bluetooth accessories. The iMac is really, really quiet. It's only 7 decibels loud when it's running. And so I did an internet search to find out how fast it is and how quiet it is. And 10 decibels is about the sound of a leaf falling. So the iMac is even quieter than a leaf falling, which is pretty impressive. So that's the iMac. It's a 4.5K display, 23.5 inches corner to corner, has Apple's powerful M1 chip. Front-facing camera is full high definition, 3 studio quality microphones, 6 speaker sound system, Magic Keyboard, Magic Mouse. So that's the iMac. Let's turn to the MacBook Pro. So if you have a demonstrated need for a more powerful system, then there's the MacBook Pro, which has been spec'd with the M1 Pro chip, which is more performant than the entry-level M1 and the M2. So the M1 Pro chip is the processing unit for the MacBook Pro, and these are very powerful laptops. The 14-inch MacBook Pro is only 15.5 millimeters thin, and it weighs 3.5 pounds. Whereas the 16-inch model is 16.8 millimeters thin, and it weighs 4.7 pounds. Now, unlike the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pros do have a fan system. So if you're doing types of applications where you need to sustain performance for hours on end, for example, if you're rendering videos, this fan will keep your system highly performant and cooled off so that it can just run at a sustained rate for a very long time. Now, the display on these MacBook Pros is amazing. You may have heard about Apple's Pro Display XDR. This is Apple's highest end monitor, and it's about a $6,000 monitor. We've moved that same technology into the MacBook Pro, so it can actually sustain 1,000 nits of brightness, which is just amazing, and up to 1,600 nits of peak brightness. So that's the same as Apple's $6,000 top-of-the-line display. So really bright display, the full P3 color gamut, over 1 billion colors, and it supports Apple's ProMotion technology, which ProMotion improves how motion content is displayed on the screen. So for example, when you're browsing through a web page or watching video, it can dynamically adjust the frame refresh rate or the display refresh rate between 24 hertz and 120 hertz. So it can go all the way up to 120 refreshes per second. So the scrolling and video just looks liquid smooth. Now, as far as resolutions on the 14-inch, you can see that it's a 3K display at almost 6 million pixels. And on the 16-inch model, it's about a 3.5K display at 7.7 million pixels. The processor in both of these is the M1 Pro, so it's 200 gigabytes of bandwidth, memory bandwidth. So that's twice as much memory bandwidth as the M2 processor. And it has some custom technologies built into it. So Apple's Secure Enclave, to make sure that it keeps your data secure. You want to make sure that your data that you put in there is encrypted all the time. So that's what the Secure Enclave does. You want to make sure that you enable the File Vault feature so that if your computer is lost or stolen, no one can access your data. We also have a custom designed image signal processor. So it works in conjunction with things like the camera, that front-facing camera, to improve the image over what you get from just the hardware. So it does a lot of computational photography and videography to make the image even better. And when you're watching video, it uses very low power, so you could watch a lot more video and not have to worry about draining your battery. And we have a custom I/O controller, so when you attach things like Thunderbolt or USB, you can benefit from Apple's custom-made controller to deliver the highest amount of throughput possible. Looking at performance, here's the 16-inch MacBook Pro compared to the i9 MacBook Pro. This is you can see that the CPU performance is twice as performant. And looking at the GPU, the graphics performance is 2.5 times better. For machine learning, it's 5 times faster performance than the Intel model. You could also do 7 streams of 8K video. So just incredible performance. For the 14-inch model, for CPU performance, it's 3.7 times faster than the prior generation i7 MacBook Pro. And for graphics, it's 9 times faster than the prior generation MacBook Pro with the Intel processor. 11 times faster for machine learning. Battery life, up to 17 hours on the 14-inch model and up to 21 hours on the 16-inch model. Of course, the 16-inch model has a bigger battery, of course. For storage, it has 512 gigabytes of storage, which is the standard for all the Macs that we're talking about today. And the read speeds are just insane at 7.4 gigabytes per second. So very fast storage.
A quick question.
The camera, yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned 512 SSD. I mean, we have currently our 13, the previous model of the MacBook Pro, we have 1 terabyte. So is there an option for 1 terabyte SSD?
Yes, there will. You get this, all of that is additional, yes. That was a special order for you.
Yeah, but there is an option. That was
Yes.
my question. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Okay, so let's go back and talk about the cameras. So again, a full high definition front facing camera. It has a wider aperture, a 4-element lens. Again, it benefits from Apple's custom image signal processing component. So it has computational video to give you an even better image than what you get than just from the hardware. It has 3 studio quality microphones. It has beamforming, so it really focuses on your voice and gets the ambient noise out of the audio stream, so that you can so that everyone can hear you really loud and clear. The speaker system, there is a 6-speaker sound system. There's 2 tweeters and 4 force canceling woofers, so it gives you really great bass. We also support spatial audio. Again, that Dolby Atmos, where you have, instead of just 2 channels for audio, it gives you up to 128. And it supports the Magic Keyboard. Apple has just a really incredible keyboard experience. If you've typed on a recent keyboard, you know how good the travel is in the keys. It's only about 1 millimeter of travel. We've gotten rid of the touch bar and gone back to the traditional function keys. So you now have traditional function keys on the top row. There's a Touch ID sensor for quickly logging into your Mac. We've made the escape key a little bit wider for people that enjoy, or that are coding, or that like to use that escape key. Again, really wide force touch trackpad, so you have a really big space to do all your gestures. Lots of ports. We have an SD card slot. If you do photography, there's 3 Thunderbolt 4/USB-C ports. There's an HDMI port, so if you connect to projectors or TVs and you don't want to use a dongle, you can connect right to the built-in HDMI port. And it has MagSafe, so you can power using the MagSafe magnetic connector, which is nice. So if you trip over the cable, it doesn't pull your laptop off the table. But you can also charge from one of the Thunderbolt ports if you really want to. And it also has that high impedance headphone jack if you prefer to use wired headphones. Now, unlike the MacBook Air and the iMac, the MacBook Pros can support up to 3 external displays at 6K and 60 hertz. So that's in addition to using that HDMI port. So that's actually 4 displays for a total of 75 million pixels if you have need of that much screen real estate. Now these all support Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5. So for the 16-inch model, the default configuration for that University that Information Services has come up with is the M1 Pro with 10-core CPU and a 16-core GPU, 16 gigs of unified memory, 512 gig storage. And again, it sounds like if you have more storage needs, you should talk to Stephanie and negotiate that. And on the 16-inch model, because it has the bigger enclosure, you get a bigger battery, so up to 21 hours of battery life. For the 14-inch model, up to 17 hours of battery life. And it has 8 cores CPU and 14 cores GPU. So not as many CPU and graphics cores on the 14-inch model, but still highly performant and otherwise very much the same computer as the 16-inch model. I want to speak just briefly about some of the enhancements in the current Mac OS that ships on all these computers. So there's some really cool enhancements. I talked about the full high definition front-facing camera on all these products. However, with Ventura, you can use a feature called continuity camera. So you could, if you have an iPhone, you can use your iPhone to replace the built-in camera. And this will give you that really incredible 4K camera on your iPhone. So that's 4 times the resolution as your built-in camera. So be aware that if you want to use your iPhone as your front-facing camera, you can do that with this continuity camera feature. And there's really inexpensive adapters you can get to mount your camera, your iPhone on your Mac. Another change is that we've added a new window management feature called Stage Manager. And this won't appeal to everyone, especially if you're a longtime Mac user. You're probably kind of happy with your current window management, but it's a new option for people that want to try something a little different. And that's built into the new Ventura and also into iPadOS 16. Another really great feature in iOS 16 and macOS 13 is support for passkeys. And this isn't an Apple thing, it's an industry-wide thing. Microsoft and Google and just about everyone else supports it, but basically passkeys removes the need for you to store a password for accessing a website. Now, obviously, the website has to support passkeys for this to work, but Apple has built it into the operating system. And it's not just an Apple technology, but the entire world will be moving to passkeys. Now, the biggest thing to get used to in Ventura is that the System Preferences app has been replaced with a new app called System Settings. And if you've used an iPhone or an iPad in the past, then you already know how to use it. It looks just like that. However, if you're still getting used to where things appear in the hierarchy, here's a couple tips and tricks for you. So what you can do is just go to that view menu when you're inside of the System Settings app, and that gives you a list of all the different categories to quickly navigate to the section that you want to go to. Or what I do is I just go to the search field and type in what I'm looking for, and it makes it very easy to find exactly what I'm looking for because it's so new that I haven't learned where everything is yet. And those are 2 shortcuts that I think will be very easy for you to continue to use System Settings until you get up to speed with it. I do want to give a call out to people that use Pro apps. So if you have a need to use apps like Final Cut Pro or Logic Pro, don't buy those apps individually. Speak with Stephanie and have those apps purchased for you centrally, and they can be installed on your Mac through Jamf Pro. Instead of paying $299 for Final Cut, you can get all 5 of our Pro apps for only $199. So even if you only want Final Cut and you don't want the other 4 apps, it's still $100 cheaper. So why wouldn't you do this? So if you have a need for any of Apple's Pro apps, you can get them all for $199, and you can talk to Stephanie about how to procure that. You want to get it installed on your Mac through your mobile device management solution, which is called Jamf Pro. Now, some of you may need to run Windows or Linux on your Mac, and there's plenty of solutions for this. Again, I would refer you to information services, and they can consult with you about the best solution that they can support at University of Richmond. Now, Boot Camp doesn't work with the Apple's new M1 and M2 chips because that's an Intel-only solution. That may come back in the future. I don't know. It depends on Microsoft. If they're willing to let us do that, then we'd like to bring Boot Camp back. But there's plenty of virtualization solutions available if you need to run Windows. And you could talk to information services. They may even have a VDI solution, which means that your non-native operating system will run on a server. So you don't even have to install anything on your Mac. That, to me, that's the best solution. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that if you do have a need to run Windows or Linux on your Mac, information services can consult with you about the myriad ways to accomplish that. There's also some adapters, although if you get a MacBook Pro, you won't need as many adapters because they include an SD card slot and a HDMI slot. But there's still adapters available if you have old legacy style USB Type A connectors that you need to connect, or if you want to just have adapters, they're available, and there's different charging cables as well. So I guess the last thing I wanted to mention is that Apple is very concerned about the environment, and this slide is particular about the MacBook Pro, but all of our products we try to use as much aluminum and glass as possible, so we're not using plastics, and we try to get all the poisonous chemicals out of the components. So things like mercury and beryllium and things that are poisonous, we try not to use those in our products. So if you want more information about Apple's stewardship of the environment, I encourage you to go to apple.com/environment. Anyway, you guys have been very patient. Thank you. And I want to open it up for questions.
I have a question. You mentioned 16 gigs of memory is a standard. Is there an option for more memory, or that's it? That's the maximum size that they'll support?
There is an option for more memory also.
And that's only on the Pro, right?
No, that's for everything.
For everything?
Okay. What he's giving you is our university standards. So if you just order a machine, that's what you'll get. If you need some additional, then I'll work with you on that.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Now, what I would add is keep in mind that, in the past, a lot of folks feel like they need to have a certain amount of memory, and Apple has kind of changed the stakes with this new unified memory architecture. So think about it this way: with your iPhone or an iPad, you never have to think about how much memory you're getting with your iPhone or your iPad. Everything just works. And more, that's becoming the way it is with Macs. Not completely. There's a difference between 16 gigs of memory and 64 gigs of memory, for example. But as a baseline, for example, just until a few weeks ago, I was using a MacBook Air M1 with 8 gigs of memory, and I could do everything I needed with 8 gigs of memory. So the fact that information services is giving 16 gigabytes as the baseline is really generous and really future-proofing you for the next 4 years. Now, if you are like a hardcore video editor, perhaps you do want 32 gigs of memory. Well, I can't imagine needing more than 32 gigs of memory, but if you do, talk to Stephanie and they'll negotiate something with you. But I just want people to be aware, with that new unified memory architecture, your graphics memory can access that same pool of memory. So think about it that way. And you're not just getting like 16 gigs of CPU memory. Your graphics can also use that entire 16 gigabytes of memory, which is really impressive. But thanks for the question. Are there any other questions? Everyone knows what they want?
There's a comment in the chat, Aaron, about M2 MacBook Air only going up to 24 gigs. Can you confirm that?
Yeah. So if you're in the market for the MacBook Air, then you are what I would think is a standard user. You're not really doing high-end video editing, things like that. So you probably don't even need 24 gigs of memory. But if you did for some reason want to max out the amount of memory in your MacBook Air, you could go to 24 gigs. Like I said, I was using a MacBook Air with 8 gigs of memory, and I was opening, Office and Teams and Zoom, and I had everything, email, I had everything open at once, and I never had a problem with just 8 gigs of memory. So I think information services, by giving you 16 gigs standard, is incredibly generous. But if you need more, if you're a video editor, or if you just really need more, then I would consult with Stephanie and negotiate something with IS. If you do need more than 24 gigs of memory, then you should definitely look at the MacBook Pro. You're probably doing video editing or audio engineering or advanced 2D graphic design, something that really requires more power. Does that help? I don't know who asked the question, but
I think it was just a statement, actually. I just wanted to make sure that people knew that.
Okay.
Yeah. I had placed in the chat a few resources, or a couple of resources, if you'd like to do more with your Mac, or you are just getting started with a Mac, or you want to get just some time to kind of try to figure out something. Our Apple Professional Learning team is offering one-to-one coaching. This started during the pandemic for people to learn to teach online, but we are continuing this. You can get a free 30-minute session with our Apple Professional Learning specialists. These are really, everyone I've ever met is just fantastic. They will kind of walk you through. I've had a lot of professors I've pointed to this to improve their use of the Mac in their classroom or productivity wise. So if you just want to figure out how to better manage something and you want to use your Mac, this is available for you. Or if you'd rather not do a one-to-one, kind of like me, I tend to go to the one-to-minis. We also offer on Mondays and Thursdays a couple of times a day. There, for example, today, if you'd like to learn how to use live video in your presentations, there's a session later today that you can do for free. You just have to register, and then they will send you the link. And they won't bombard you with all kinds of spam or whatever. You will get a follow-up with any resources mentions, but that'll be it, and you're done. And so highly recommend using these free tools if you'd like to expand. Or like just last week, I was talking to a professor in chemistry at another school, and he wanted to be able to annotate his slides and then present them to the classroom. So I pointed him to this resource. And so it's a great tool. Just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that. I know we're giving the specs and you're making a call on the decision, but I'd love to see more knowledge about how to better use your technology shared on a regular basis. So, and of course you can ask Aaron and I any questions afterwards or offline. We're available. If you've got a conundrum you'd like to figure out, feel free to reach out to us.
Thanks, Jack. Does anybody have anything else for Aaron or Jack? If not, then thank everybody for coming.
Thank you all.
Thanks for your attention, everyone.